Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vanessa Goodwin of Key Performance Ideas, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today, How to Accurately Identify Your True Costs and Profit Drivers on a Daily Basis, presented by Brad Matthias. Brad is a certified Oracle Hyperion S-Base and planning consultant with over 12 years of experience, successfully implementing Hyperion solutions for domestic and international organizations. Brad has extensive experience in profitability models, including recently building an application for product, country, and market segment profitability by individual department levels. He has a strong business and accounting background, which he leverages to deliver world-class solutions to clients such as CDW and Panduit. Thank you, Brad, for joining us today.
Thanks, Vanessa. So the goal of today's topic is to have a conversation around Hyperion profitability and cost management, or HPCM, and to bring awareness to the product while discussing its capabilities. Oracle has been getting some good traction over the past couple of years with the product. Quite a few customers have implemented it or are currently in the process of implementing HPCM. So on today's agenda, we're going to talk about what is HPCM, and then we're going to take a walk through the tool and highlight some of the features and the functionality. Profitability isn't a new topic, but we're seeing more organizations talking about profitability and with the desire to implement some sort of model. I've been working with profitability models since I started working with S-Base. The original application that I supported was a product line profitability database. It was a combination of an S-Base database and an Access database. Power of S-Base is really good with allocations, but the model we were working with was extremely manual and took a long time to validate and run. We used the Access database to compile our statistics, push them to our S-Base model to get our results. In this process, if a single step was missed, we would have to start from the beginning and do it over. Frequently, we'd spend a couple days a month just to put out a profitability analysis. Over the years, I've seen other organizations use Excel models. Many have attempted to use their general ledger to do allocations for profitability. And I've also implemented a number of applications using planning and S-Base to do the profitability analysis. Problems you find with many of the profitability models out there, many of them are very manual. Like the original product line profitability application I supported, it was a very manual process. We used tools like S-Base, but there were still a lot of steps that we had to run through in order to get our analysis out to the users. An Excel model, ones we've seen there, have been extremely manual. Frequently, the owner of the model would have to send it out on a monthly basis to compile statistics. When the statistics are returned, you need to update the model, run through the Excel process to get your results, and then send that out to the users for review. Frequently, that iteration occurs many times until the statistics and all things check out are complete. And in that process, there's a lot of room for mistakes. Additionally, when we're looking at profitability, models very quickly get very complex and can become very, very large. One client I worked with looked at profitability by country, by business, and by product. So one pool of dollars that we're allocating could be allocated up to possibly over 1 million combinations of that country, business, and product. Application like that is much, much too complex for an Excel model. Another common problem is a lot of the tools that are currently used for profitability don't provide the necessary transparency into how the data was allocated. Recent client worked with One of their big complaints was a lot of dollars were allocated, but they were allocated in one large bucket. They couldn't separate between what was rent allocated to them versus payroll expenses allocated. So in a model like that, the owner of the model spent a lot of their time answering analysts' questions, because that owner was the only one who could provide that detail to them. The real value of the profitability tool comes from analyzing your costs, not dealing with the manual processes, not answering questions. The analysis that the business can use to make decisions. Any time spent on your maintenance and support is less time that you can perform these analytics. So what is HPCM, and how might your organization benefit from implementing HPCM? HPCM is packaged profitability functionality, pre-built framework. It supports multiple allocation methodologies, contains pre-built validation, and it contains traceability as well as genealogy flows. It's a user-driven application. It's meant to sit with your finance user, and it provides what-if scenario and modeling. Additionally, it's tightly integrated with the Hyperion suite. HPCM is accessed through the workspace, which allows you to also access the other EPM products your organization may already own. In this slide from Oracle, we see where the profitability HPCM module sits. It sits alongside your planning and forecasting, Hyperion Planning, Hyperion Financial Management, and your Hyperion Strategic Finance. It leverages the common reporting interface such as SmartView, Financial Reports, OBIEE, and sits on the common workspace foundation. And you can easily integrate between all your source systems, whether it be an ERP, Oracle database, Excel, or directly from a data mart. So what are some of the strategic use cases for HPCM? Well, first and foremost, clear one is allocations. One I'd like to highlight here is the ledger support. In several clients I've worked with, they were performing allocations in the ledger. In some cases, those allocations took a long time, multiple days. Other times, they were just looking for a better way to do it. HPCM allows you to create those allocations through the tool and gives you the ability to feed the results of those allocations back to the ledger. And of course, as HPCM in the title of Profitability says, use cases for profitability. We can look at any segment, however you want to measure the company's profitability, customer, product, channel, segment, et cetera, et cetera. And also what is generating discussion is using HPCM for transfer pricing, such as operational pricing and tax strategy and compliance. There are three types of applications or models that you can deploy through HPCM. The first one, the standard profitability model. This is the most commonly deployed model and provides some of the best traceability of all the models. It's built using a combination of an S-based block storage application and an S-based aggregate storage application. It provides the organization with simple validation and control, allows you to allocate or perform your profitability analysis using stages. and we'll discuss that a little later. And it contains a very highly detailed allocation tracing, which we'll also take a look at later. The second type of HPCM application is the detailed profitability model. This model is built strictly using relational tables. The purpose of this model is to handle extremely large volumes of data. When we're dealing with very large volumes of data, sometimes the performance of an S-base application isn't good enough and may take days or at least hours. So the detailed model allows you to do extreme large volumes of data in a fairly reasonable amount of time. Common application would be a hospital that's looking at profitability by patient. And the third type of HPCM application is the management ledger application. This application is built using the aggregate storage S-base technology to read, write, and report on. The purpose of the management ledger is to allow you to do your allocations over a large set of dimensions. Larger set than would be supported than the standard application. You commonly see this when we are doing more general ledger type allocations. And this model allows you to easily pass back your results of your allocations to the general ledger or to Hyperion Financial Management. This is the one application that does not require EPMA to build the model, whereas the standard model and the detailed model require EPMA to deploy your application. So what is the value of HPCM over, in this case, let's take a look at a straight S-base application. The HPCM application is a model-driven approach. We design everything in a modeling environment. And the key point here, big highlight, is that every calculation script is automatically generated with HPCM. S-base procedural approach, and an S-base calculation script is very manual, generally requiring someone skilled in calculations, whereas the HPCM side, that skill set is not needed. HPCM provides complete transparency, so all the allocations are visible through the web interface. The allocation logic, the rules, the drivers. S-base, a lot of it is hidden in the back end and only visible to the administrator. HPCM is out-of-the-box functionality for multi-stage, multi-step applications and reciprocal allocations. For S-base, we can build those multi-stage, multi-step allocations, but generally there's a high complexity of coding. HPCM provides the out-of-the-box validation and audits and the traceability maps. Anything we want from S-base, we have to custom develop that. So taking a look at standard architecture for HPCM, we're looking at the standard model here. So this is the application that has the block storage and the aggregate storage cubes. So what we can see in the middle is we have our two cubes, as well as our relational that holds our stages, our drivers, and our assignments. We can see on the left that our application is going to be deployed through EPMA. And we see on the top the data sources going into our application. It's very common in an HPCM deployment that users are going to want a front-end reporting cube. So we commonly put a reporting cube in front of our HPCM model. That reporting cube is specifically tailored to meet the specific report formats that the organization desires. And from our reporting and analysis, we're able to use the EPM suite of tools, SmartView, Financial Reporting, Web Analysis, OBI-EE, to access the data via our reporting cube, or if necessary, we can drill back into the HPCM cubes. This next slide shows a sample of a little more complex deployment that we recently performed. In this model, we put FDMEE on the front end for our data management, and we also added in a Hyperion planning application. In this particular model, there were many statistics and drivers that the organization needed to capture and use for the HPCM application. So leveraging the user interface and web forms of Hyperion planning, we allowed the users to enter metrics that then fed into our HPCM model. And as you can see, when we had the reporting application deployed for our users to access through SmartView and financial reporting. So now we want to start walking through some functionality of the HPCM application. As I highlighted before, HPCM is accessed through the EPM workspace. Users are going to build their allocations through a graphical process in order to define the stages, and steps, and drivers. And it's designed for ease of maintenance, of moving through the different steps. The first step in deploying an HPCM application is setting up your system information. In this example, we're going to be again looking at a standard model where we have the ASO and BSO applications. The first part of the setting up is naming your applications. This is just a screenshot where we type in our ASO name and our BSO name and create the shell of the application. The next step in creating your HPCM application is to define stages. The stages are steps that need to occur in order to get to your end state. In this screenshot, in this model, our end state is down on row number 3, where our end goal is to look at our profitability by market and product. In order to get to that profitability by market and product, there are a couple steps we need to do to get there. We have a stage 1 defined, where we're going to do some basic general ledger allocations between departments. So moving data from one department to another. The next stage, we are going to do some allocations from one business unit to another. We are effectively going to take our non-sales business units and allocate our overhead to those sales business units. Once those allocations have occurred in stage 3, we are going to do our allocations to get to profitability by market and product category. As you can see here, each stage allows us to use 3 dimensions to perform our allocations. The first one, we're using the business unit, department, and account. Second stage, we're taking business unit, we are summarizing our department, and we're summarizing some accounts. We don't need the detail in the second stage that we need in the first. And in the third stage, we are just looking at our allocation to segment and category. And this is the most important step in your model. You want to make sure you spend enough time on this and capture everything before moving on to your next steps. Next step in setting up your model is setting up a point of view. This point of view is used for many different things that we'll try and cover. Initially, when we're defining our model, we're going to set up an initial point of view. This is where we're going to set up the first year and first period that we're going to do our allocations. HPCM performs its allocations on monthly point of view. And you can see that we also, part of the point of view is this scenario. This point of view manager we also use to copy from one period to another. So we create our initial definitions for our first month, and we can copy those to our subsequent months. We can copy that point of view to our budget or any other scenario. And it also allows us to copy and do one-off what-if scenarios. After setting up initial point of views, we can come in and set up our driver definitions. HPCM comes with many predefined drivers and also comes with the ability to create any driver that you can think of. The drivers can be applied to either the revenue or cost layers, or they can be applied to both. There's a lot of flexibility here. One of the powers of HPCM is that we can easily go through and change drivers at any point. So if we're in a what-if scenario and we want to test out a new driver, we can define it through here, apply it to other stages of the model, go back to our point of view, create a what-if model to a what-if scenario, and run our allocations there and go through and analyze the results. After setting up our drivers, we start working on our assignments. The assignments, I think, is where you can clearly see the power of the HPCM tool. The assignments are where we define the pool of dollars that we are starting with. We're going to define it, how we're going to allocate it, and that is by the driver. And then we state the destination of where the results of those allocations are going to go to. Up at the top of the screen here, we can see our point of view. So when we are creating our assignments, again, going back to the point of view, we are creating it for a year, a period, and a scenario. We can copy that assignment to all subsequent periods. And if we're doing a what-if scenario, we can copy it to the what-if scenario, come back into the assignment here, and you can see in our business unit, our department, and our account, we can easily go in and change our current assignment from business unit 1, our summarized departments, our rent. We can move up the tree and perform that assignment of all business units, all departments, rent, and change our driver and assigning it to our market and our product. Now that we've created our point of view, our drivers, and our assignments, before we run our allocations, we can do a series of validations. HPCM comes with a number of them. As you can see on the top of the screen here, in the tab format, there are 8 predefined validations that we could look at to make sure that everything has been set up correctly. In this screenshot here, we're focusing on the missing assignment destinations. Down here, we are looking at our stage 2, checking our stage 2. And when we ran the validation, we see that there are no missing assignment destinations. If we didn't complete the model and we missed something, we could identify that easily through these validations here. Once we've gone through, we've validated our model, make sure that all of our assignments have drivers, nothing's missing. We can then move into the next step of running our calculations. In this screen here, we see in our 3-stage model, we can run our calculations for all 3 stages. We can run 1 stage, 2 stages. If we need to rerun a single stage, we can do that here. It allows us to easily check whether we want to clear before we allocate or just go ahead and recalculate. And you'll notice a column second from the right, which says generate. Again, the power of HPCM is that we do not have to maintain calculations. The tool does that for us. If we're in a what-if scenario and we've changed some of our assignments, we've changed the pools of dollars that we're going to allocate. So in the 2 slides up here, if we've changed from business unit 01 and decided to go all the way up to the top to all business units, when we come to run the calculation here, if we check the box to generate the calculation, that change will dynamically be built, and when you execute the calculation, it will calculate based on the new assignments. After we've run our calculations, we want to validate that everything worked correctly. So HPCM gives you this post-calc validation. In this screenshot here, we're not looking at our 3-stage model, we're looking at this 5-stage model. It's interesting because it shows a lot of movement in our data, and you can see the power of this validation. In row 1, general ledger, this is our input data. So we're starting with roughly $350,000. And we can see as we move across the right to the right on the line 1 that we've allocated dollars to business operations and products. And that total output of roughly $350,000. And we have $16,000 of that we're choosing not to allocate. And you can go through the different stages then and see all the way on the right the unassigned amount. In the second row, we see a variance of $3,000. If that is incorrect, we can go back to our model validation, look at our assignments, make sure everything's correct, then go recalculate our model and see if we can clear out that variance. If it is correct, we can continue on and continue our validations. We can see that stage 5 here, that we have a full variance of the starting amount, which quickly tells us that we still have not run our calculations for stage 5. So the idea here, I just want to demonstrate to mean you can really see the transparency into your data that HPCM provides. The final piece of HPCM we're going to be looking at is my favorite part, is the traceability matrix. Traceability matrix provides your users with the graphical view into the full allocation process. The very simple grid shows that we can move either forwards or backwards within your allocations by expanding and minimizing. In the screenshot here, we're looking at a market and a product combination, and you can see the plus signs on either side that indicate that we can drill forward or backwards. In our case here, we're going to be drilling back, and we're going to take a look at where did our costs for this market and product come from. Our first drill back shows us that our costs came from 4 business units and came from our rent account. We can see on the top that 51% of our allocated dollars came from business unit 1 and the remaining percentages from the other business units. Since 51% of our costs came from business unit 1, we may want to drill in further on that and see how those costs were derived. Drilling into that business unit 01, we see that they came from 2 components. The top box here, GL, which is an indicator that these expenses were posted directly from the general ledger. And we can see in the general ledger data that business unit 1, second PCR is our department and our account. And we see our spread by department. The second component came from another allocation. This allocation came from 3 other business units. Again, if we want to explore further back, like this business unit 3, see how that data is comprised, we again are able to drill back and see that it's a mix of general ledger data that was posted to business unit 03, as well as an allocation from business unit 00 that was given to business unit 3. And again, we could continue to drill back further if we desire. So as you can see from this traceability matrix, it's providing high level of transparency into our revenue and cost allocations, allowing us to trace forwards or backwards anywhere in the model. And it's an easy graphical interface. So in summary, we've talked about what HPCM is. It's a pre-built framework for profitability modeling that uses the user-driven model with tight integration to the EPM suite. And it allows us to use 3 allocation models: the standard, which we've covered mostly here, a detailed model, which is going to allow you to process high volumes of data, and the management ledger model. And we've also then taken a look into the standard model, going through the process of setting up our point of view, looking at driver definitions, the assignments, the validations, and finally, the ability to trace. If you'd like any further information on anything that we've discussed today, please feel to contact me. My email address is here on the final slide, or you can contact Greg Olma. With that, I turn it back over to Anissa.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you all for joining us today for the webinar, How to Accurately Identify Your True Cost and Profit Drivers on a Daily Basis. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Brad and Greg's contact information is displayed on your screen, and thank you all for joining us, and have a great day.